But we had Micah in an interview, and they're talking about some of the moves that other teams are making. They're talking about what he'd like to see from the Cowboys. He's talked about Myles Garrett possibly coming back home to Dallas. He's like, hey man, come on home. Come on home. We'd be more than happy to welcome you. I would take less money for you to come play with us.
Mhm.
Would you take less money to come here? I also heard in that interview, he was like, I got to tell Jerry I got to make more than Myles Garrett does, though.
Yeah.
Like, Myles got to take less than me because I'm younger, right? But one of the other things that he's mentioned now, and I feel like maybe he's not subtle with it. Like
No.
and I do know that Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones do have rabbit ears, and they are definitely listening to the rumblings of anything Cowboys related.
Yep.
But the quote that came out was, Micah talking about how he wants to see moves in the offseason, and he wants to see the Cowboys be aggressive. He wants to see them make moves, bring in players, keep players, and spend that money.
Yep.
Now, it's kind of been historically proven that the Cowboys go the more frugal route, or they'll sign a bunch of their own free agents and not have any money to go outside and play in the free agency market. What do you think about that? That Micah putting Steven and Jerry on notice, Julio, that maybe it's like, hey man, I want to be here, but I don't want to just be here and be complacent and see y'all not making no moves. Like, if y'all ain't trying to make no moves, then maybe I gotta go.
I mean, for me, that's a great thing, right? I like to hear him kind of apply a little pressure in that sense to the front office, kind of letting them know how he feels about, how we do business in Dallas or how the front office does business in Dallas. I know that a lot of fans, myself included, have sometimes looked at some of the moves that we make and hear some of the hope that's being dealt out by Jerry every year to say, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and we're going to make a splash and this and that and the other. And then at the end of the day, it's like, what the hell did you really do to help the team,
Ain't doing a
to
damn
further the
thing.
team? So it's one of those things that I like the fact that Micah's being vocal about it and letting them know, basically putting them on notice, like, hey, either you start making moves and you start paying me, and I'll even help by adjusting my contract in order for us to
Mhm.
bring somebody here. But if that's not going to be done, I think I heard him, I can't remember on what podcast he was on. He was on one show, and I think I heard him say, at some point, I'm going to get tired of this too, and I'm going to want to go play for a championship team, for a team that wants to win a championship. Because at the end of the day, at the end of every player's career, the main goal, the biggest goal that any player has, whether you be in the NFL, NBA, wherever it is that you're playing, is to win a championship. You want to be part of a championship team, and they have every right to. They've played all their lives in that sport and have become professionals in that sport and have fine-tuned their craft, as they say,
Mhm.
to the point to where they want to be able to show something for it. I've heard a lot of legendary players that have played in the league in past years before where they didn't make a championship, and for them it was like, yeah, all these accolades are great, making it to the Pro Bowl and becoming an MVP and doing this and doing that, that's all great, but what do I have to show for it? They still think that way. Why? Because they don't have a championship. So it's one of those things to where every player wants to have that. And I'm glad that Micah's putting them kind of on blast a little bit and saying, hey, let's do something this year. Instead of talking about it, let's do something about it. And let's bring some players here that can make a splash, that can make an impact. I mean, we saw what the Eagles did by picking up Saquon. I mean, that should give you a clear indication. If they can do it, why the hell can't we? Why can't we pick up an extremely well-rounded player that we can put in our system and help us win a damn championship?
Yep.
It's not rocket science, you know? It's not always about how much money we're making and if we're the, best team in the league when it comes to financial things. It's
Right.
about winning fucking championships. That's what the city cares about. That's what the fans care about. And you can start to see now that some of the players, that's what they care about. It's like,
Mhm.
we want to see a fucking championship here. We don't want to sit here and be another year with 7-10 fucking season and nothing to show for it. That makes no sense. Then why would I stay here? Why wouldn't I go to a different team that's willing to do what they need to do to make sure that we win a championship?
Right. And I think he was talking to Derrick Henry when he was talking about that. He was,
Yeah,
he kind of joked around about like, bro, if I ain't won the ring and I hit 30, I might have to go to Kansas
yeah,
City and try to chase the ring that way, just something like that.
yeah.
So I mean, ultimately, Mike is trying to make his bag. Obviously, it's going to be his first real contract, so he's trying to get the bag. No hate to that.
No,
But
none
after that,
whatsoever.
ultimately, then what do you do? Then at that point, you start talking about, well, let's apply what we've got and try to go chase a title. I think him saying, "Hey, I'll take less money to chase a title." I think that's kind of the mentality Tom Brady had. Tom Brady was never the highest paid, but
Never.
Tom Brady was like, "Show me that you're going to be using that money to bring in players so that we can be good and we can win some titles." Tom didn't need to be the highest paid. He just wanted to win. I mean, 7 Super Bowl wins, that lets you know he knew something.
Can't really argue with 7 Super Bowl wins.
You know what I'm saying? So I like that, man. I like that mentality, but I also think like on the flip side of that, that does kind of put a bullseye on Micah's back as far as
Definitely.
this guy's a little bit outspoken, maybe too outspoken. Maybe we need to trade him. He's got a lot of trade value. There's nothing that says the Cowboys don't trade Micah now before they got to pay him.
Yeah. There
And
is
I'm not
nothing
I'm
that's
not
stopping it.
saying that they necessarily should, but he would bring you in a haul. I mean, the Cowboys. I say that, but the Cowboys are like the only team that would not get fair compensation for Micah Parsons. They don't know how to negotiate
No.
for value. They
Hell no.
just they're not good at that. So
We'll see another Amari Cooper kind of trade,
something
and it's gonna
stupid
be
like that, right?
so stupid.
So yeah, I wouldn't trust the Cowboys to do something like that. But I mean, when Micah starts to get a little bit outspoken, I think that does
Raise a red flag.
that does perk the ears of the owners up. Like, hey, what the hell's going on? Why are you talking so much? Like,
Mhm.
you let us worry about salary cap and rosters, and you just play football. So that's something that to keep an eye out for as the offseason, continues, is to see what the Cowboys decide to do with Micah. Are they gonna pay him?
Would
Are
you
they
be
gonna
surprised
drop him?
if would you be surprised if we dropped him and traded him for something ridiculous? Knowing the Cowboys, them finally deciding to say, "You know what? We're gonna move away from this situation because, he's being too loud, too outspoken, and let's move away from this and see what we can get for him."
It wouldn't surprise me. Nothing in this world will surprise me now that Luka Doncic got traded for what he got traded for. Micah Parsons getting traded. I think if you ask the DFW, who would you rather have kept on their respective team, Luka to the Mavs or Micah to the Cowboys? Micah, he gone.
He gone.
I mean, that Mike is just not as impactful to the overall team as Luca was to the overall team. So
Okay.
it wouldn't surprise me, but if we got good compensation for him, yeah, that would surprise me. I'd be like, oh snap! Like we really got a front office that knew what they were doing. I wonder who
Okay.
helped. Uh,
Nico Harris.
no, no. I thought Jerry Jones made that trade. I was like, oh, that's Jerry Jones.